Hey there, welcome to What We Don't Say, the parts of leadership that don't make it to LinkedIn. I'm Ken Roden. Here's part 2 of my conversation with Amy Bray, leader at Google.
Yeah. Going back to what you said about, when you were early in your career and you were kind of hungry for more, I think that's something that people can relate to a lot, either being that person. Maybe they're in a role right now where they're like, I could be doing more, I'm giving more, I may be giving more than I perceive that other people like me or senior than me. And that's a real feeling. And then at the same time, you talk about being a manager and you're like, the job's the job. Like, we have the jobs because we have these jobs and this is what we need.
Yeah.
If you could give advice back to, younger Amy, would you change anything?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, such a good question. I mean, let me start with advice, I think, for folks that are younger in their careers that really want to keep flexing and learning more stuff and diversifying their experience. That is super valid. And I highly recommend that people do that. Experiment with different roles, experiment with different functions, figure out what's fun to you, what feels fulfilling, what are you good at, what are your superpowers. So I highly recommend that people, don't find a job and stick with that job forever and ever. Find the job that's adjacent to the one you're doing and try it out, see what it's
Yeah.
like. But there's also ways to do it where you can ask. One of the things we have at Google, which is really cool, is we have this concept of a 20%. And a 20% project is cool because people can say, hey, I want to take on a 20% on this other team or in this other function. And it's a way to sort of wet your palate, test something out, try something that feels a little bit different, get a vibe, feel it out. Without jeopardizing your own role. So even if your company doesn't have a 20%, I think managers are very receptive. If somebody says, hey, I'm actually super interested in finance, could I shadow so-and-so and go to a couple meetings with them? Or I'm super interested in product design, even though I'm, in content marketing. Would it be cool? Would you help introduce me to somebody? I think being curious and experimenting is something that every manager should be supporting, and people should find ways to do it where you're not jeopardizing your current role. And then when something becomes real, when there's an actual job opportunity or there's a role, then you're a better candidate because you've been
Yeah.
experimenting in this, and you've got your network and all that good stuff. So I would just say be curious and be willing to sprinkle it in addition to the current stuff you're doing.
I like that advice because it really does help the person set expectations with themselves, but also with their manager. I think it's really hard sometimes, and I did this in my career where I was like, I want to be the next level. I want to be the senior or the
Yep.
whatever.
Yep.
And my boss is like, cool, but you're not ready. We don't have it or whatever. But if you say it more like, hey, my goal is in the next 2 years, 5 years to be this, or not even the title, be doing this, that
Yeah.
helps them keep their ears open to stuff for you without them having being worried that you're going to leave or that you're not into the job you're currently in. And it's just a slight changing of phrasing and mindset.
Totally. It's the sense of entitlement, which I feel like I had younger in my career, and I deal with this all the time with younger folks on my team. There's this oh, well, I've been in this job for this many years, therefore, I deserve the promo. I deserve the next job. That's the wrong way to do it. The
Yeah.
right way to do it is exactly what you said, which is in the next 2 years, my goal is I want to grow into this thing, or I want to learn how to do that thing. Can you help tee me up? Can you help give me these experiences? The other thing I had a boss say to me was and I feel like Googlers talk about this sometimes too, is demonstrate that you can do that job. Demonstrating that you can do that next job is a really good way to have your manager advocate for you to get it, whether it's the promotion, the bigger comp package, the new role on a different team. Demonstrating some sort of competency at that next level is a way better way to approach it than being like, I deserve this, give it to me. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
show you can do it first.
One thing that I'm super curious about is if, I were to go on your LinkedIn, like you've worked at some pretty successful companies,
Yeah.
like working with top talent. Do you ever get like intimidated or feel that imposter syndrome when you're kind of working with some of these people who are also top talent and super brilliant and also super motivated type A people?
Oh, yeah. All the time. All the time. Super normal. I would say, I had like one of my other of those like cringy, traumatic career moments was one where I was having a lot of imposter syndrome moments. So I was in this job, I was crushing it. I felt super good. I had all the right people going, like I was having tons of success. And my manager left and the VP said, "Hey, Amy, would you do this job, but on an interim basis?"
Hmm.
And like, thinking the advice I just gave you, which is like, yeah, do it, show you can do it, like demonstrate your competency. I was like, oh yeah, I can do it. Like, bring it on. I'm going to give it a go. And it was super hard. And there were some things I was good at and I could figure out how to navigate. And some things were just like, I just was not ready. I just didn't have the relationships quite down. I didn't fully understand some of the business like mechanisms. So it was totally like full self-awareness. There were some things that like I wasn't ready for.
Yeah.
One thing, just to address the imposter syndrome component, I would say I think there's a dual strategy with that. One is I think addressing imposter syndrome, I always tell people, I would say like come in like the whole fake it till you make it thing, like come in strong, show up proud, do your best to like embody the person that like you imagine would do that job.
Yeah.
But I would also say that my personal style is like having just a little bit of humility and self-awareness in situations can actually help people be like empathetic and compassionate and support you. So like sometimes I'll go into a meeting and say with a bunch of, super impressive, scary executives, like, hey, I'm super excited to be here. This is the like perspective that I'm here to represent. But also, like this is the first time I've been in this type of a executive roundtable before. Or, I remember early on in my career doing a presentation for some really big executives and saying like, hey, I'm a little nervous. I'm here to show you all of this reporting and the insights, but also like I'm a little bit nervous. And I feel like sometimes when you lead with that, people are like, okay, it's cool, you got this. They're
Yeah.
cheering you on.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think one thing that I've tried that I've seen work, curious on your thoughts on this, but if I'm doing something like that, I might try to find one of the people I'm presenting to or going to be working with. And I might be like, hey, can I ask you a favor? Like, if I'm going off rails, like, shoot me a Teams message or like text me or like give me a nod, like some sort of clue so that I know that I can recenter. And then I found what has helped me, and that is one, like I get the message, like someone's telling me like, hey, like you're going off the path. But two, like you're building trust with that person because you're essentially saying like, I'm trusting you to like tell me that I'm messing up so I don't mess up later. Like,
Yeah.
please treat it seriously. Do you think that would work? And how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I love that
Yep.
idea. I think what I would do would be an even more direct, which would say, like, maybe even in the beginning of the meeting. I feel like I say this sometimes. And also, by the way, you should do this with me right now in this podcast, is I'll say to someone, hey, I'm going to do my best to represent this. If I get off track, or if like I'm starting to get into the details, just like pull me back or just like raise your hand and, or sometimes I'll say in an executive setting, I'll say, hey, I'm going to talk about blah, 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 but also you and you, please feel free to chime in if you
Yeah.
have thoughts. And then I feel like executives are really good at being like, hold on, let's not go into that thing. Let's stay on track with this thing. So it kind of opens the invitation to being like, I'm not going to do this perfectly. I'm going to give it the best go, but also this is a collaborative meeting. So let's together like make the most of this time.
Yeah. You bring up a really good point around working with other leaders or peers or people senior to you that I don't think we talk about enough. Like, it is highly collaborative and you cannot do it on your own. And I think sometimes it feels like you must or you should. But actually, I love the way that you're thinking about it. Like, okay, I have to make it so that they all want to lean in and kind of work with me on this so they feel part of it. That's really good input. I'm going to chew on that myself.
Yeah, I love both. I love your idea too. I feel like just, yeah, we can all get better at doing meetings, and doing the imposter syndrome thing and like improving. I think like everybody has opportunity to get better at that.
There's more to this conversation, and we'll continue it next week. Thanks for listening to What We Don't Say.